This is Hotori, and Hotori has a unique weapon, which is a Parasol right here, with a lot of details and Trinkets, but also another special detail, which is that it is secretly a katana, and we are going to recreate it in Blender. This here will be what we will end up with in this tutorial. It will be quite the lengthy one, but that is because we have a lot of little details like this here to cover, and it will only cover the modeling part of the entirety, as the texturing part will be the following tutorial, so stay tuned for that, and let's get into a new Blender scene. So with many being imported to a blank Blender scene, we can add ourselves a cube. Usually you will end up being with a cube that is 2 meters, but we definitely want it to be scaled down to a size that is reasonable when we look at the character from the side. So quite 20 centimeters, but like 10 centimeters, 10 to 15 centimeters, I think are good. I go with 10 for now. Then we wanna go into edit mode over here, and we want to cut off one of the sides here, but before we do that, we push it over the green line. Then we delete the face by pressing delete or the X key. And to basically mirror it over, we go to the modifiers and add the mirror modifier, which is under generate. Now we can already see that we have ourselves here 2 cubes suddenly. We enable clipping, and then we select the outer edge loop right here and push it inwards. That way the cube is completely mirrored along this and is not clipping to the other end and causes double vertice problems and stuff. It's automatically melded right here at the center, which is quite useful. So now what we want to do before is we select everything by pressing A, and then we want to scale it inwards a little so we have more of a handle size. And now we can give it a little bit more maybe on the x-axis, now that I look at it. And we add a few loop cuts right here, and those will help us determine our face here, that we then now can scale down to a lower degree here, and then over also here to round things a little, to give it more of that typical handle look. We want to have it going more straight here, but it all goes in a little bit of a rounded shape. So in the end, we have that now this as a starting point. We could actually, you know what, to save polygons, we actually dissolve those edges. I don't think we need it, but the other ones we definitely want. We rearrange them a little. Work with less, but have a same, almost an average distribution here. When we look at it, I think this can be a little bit more like this. This can be a little bit more this, and this needs to be bigger again. Just like that. And now we can pretty much select the top view of that. Actually, no, we select everything first and bring it on the top line here. This is what we kind of want, and then we go to the side view a little. We will select the top parts here and back to the side. Now we want to raise it somewhat to this line. This will be our handle. Now that I see it like that, how tall this is and everything, I think we want to make it a little bit smaller. And make it a bit smaller as a total. This is better done with this view. And I think yeah, that actually looks quite, maybe a little bit less. You have to a lot play by eye and use your reference a lot in order to break things down. And my main point here is that we also always check with how does it look in the end when we do check it as a handle in a hand. So use your reference object that you have here and double check. 2 hands would fit in here. That is perfect. This is exactly what we need. So now we reset the position again. And now we can go over to additional parts. The next additional part would be from me that we take care of this little piece that is called a Tsuba when you look at katanas. And we want to make sure that those droplet shapes are preserved. So in order to do that, we do have to have a helper image, and for that we go to the top view because this is the view we will work from, and we add an image as a background. This ensures that we only see it from this view, and now we can scale it down. This image, I just quickly made a droplet shape, made it rotate in Clip Studio Paint, but you also could use Creator for that. You just have to work with symmetry, but I also will provide this image in the description, so you can work with it yourself. So this one has actually to be quite large in that respect. And now that we do have that, we add ourselves a circle curve. And that circle curve needs to be downscaled so it fits into this circle. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I prefer it to be at least close enough. This would be the state of close enough, and you see the image itself is not quite perfectly aligned. To help a little, push it a little bit to the side to fix that issue. And now we add another circle, but this time it's a mesh circle. And we want it to be on 16 vertices of a resolution. And I kind of wanted to scale it down from the radius so that it roughly fits in here. They should be enough. We add a modifier, this time a deform modifier, a curve modifier, and we select the curve that is in here. Now we see, okay, it has moved quite a lot into a weird direction. We put it in here. We select everything from here. We go into edit mode and we want to have it in the vertex position so we can see the vertices. And now we press G to grab our vertice and put it to the point where we want it. The controls, since it's kind of in an inverted space, are a little bit inverted, so you have to get used to it a little. But we are pushing now the vertices to where we want it to be. Which can be a bit tricky feeling at first, but you get used to it the more often you do stuff like this. Now we press A to see everything again. It actually looks quite good. I want to distribute it a little bit more on the side where it looks more evenly distributed. So this means this one goes here, this one goes here. That one looks already better. Yeah, that should work fine. I just had to double check. And now we want to exit edit mode for now. We add an array modifier. And we want to modify around it. So I think we have like 10 or 11. I think it was 11 of those. So we need, yeah, it was 11. We need to distribute it more towards at the edges fit here. It doesn't do it quite yet. This is too much. This is too less. So in between. Also too much. This seems to be the perfect number. Now in this case, it's 1.0625. Your number might vary. You have to play around a little bit with it. So now that we have that, we want to go back into curve mode. But now this is suddenly missing. So now we have to deactivate the uncaged symbol. So that is, if I move myself a little bit on the side, this little triangle. We click that off. Then we suddenly do have our object back here and can see what it does. Though it is sadly on the floor here. So what we can do in order to help us a little is that we go here into the corner and drag down another window. In that window, we look closely here, while here down below, we can actually get to work. So I prefer selecting, say, those four. And now we are going down the line. So now we need to get all of them on even ground. And the way I did that so quickly is I pressed scale, then defined the y-axis. Let's put it back to this. So I press S, I press Y, so I only scale along the y-axis, and say 0. Now they are all along the 0 axis, completely little, and now I just have to find the spot that is exactly at the end of it. And that would be here. Now, put it more to the side as well, so it's more evened out. Just like that. And with that, we can actually convert this now over. We don't need this view anymore, so we just push it down. Now we exit edit mode, because now we have our fitting here, so we apply all of our modifiers right over here. And if you ever look for modifiers, it's that wrench icon right here. This is where everything, the magic is all happening. So what we do now that we have selected everything, now we can go into the edge mode over here and select basically each side over. So we have to double check if they align, but they do align. So we do one here, one there, one here, one there. And now we can go here and say right click and say bridge edge loops. And that fills it like this. Now we do the same for every single other one. So we just speed up from here. Alright, now that we do have everything filled out, we have that inner circle right here. So we want to select one point here. If like scrolling in like here gets a little bit slow, you can directly jump into your selection by pressing the point key on your numpad, or your comma if you are on a European keyboard. And then we select everything on here. Actually, no, before we do that, we select everything then by typing A, and then we press E for extrude, and extruding it downwards so we have a little bit more of a disc shape, a solid disc. So now we select all of these points. We have to select them manually, as loop selection does not work in this case. So now we want to extrude again, but we press the right click, and now we want to move it upwards a little, just like that. Then we press E again, we press right click again, so it jumps back to the position, and then we press M, and now we press center for it, so everything lines up in here. We will do the same here, so it's more visible. Also. And now we extrude, right click, press M, and center. And now we can see that n-gon, but a triangle fan that we have here, instead of an n-gon that we would have had normally. So now that we have this, we can, well, preparation for later, we box select this part, we use Shift D for duplicate, and then press P for separation, so it's now its own object, and we can make use of that later on. For right now, we push our shape here upwards till here. And for this, one preparation that we can do is again shaving that downwards. This will be our little line right here, right below our disk. So we put that one up as well, like that. And now to make things a little bit more readable, we go here into material, which is the bright red orb there. We select new. We call in just red. Oh, no, actually not red. We call it black. And we pull it down. We say the roughness is complete dark, and we do that for other things like gold as well. I prepared that already. That's why it is saying it here. We give this our gold, just so that we have a little bit of a preparation on that end. We will come back to the ring down here later on, but this is such a minor detail that we keep working on the bigger details first before we get into this. So we take our handle here, Shift D for duplicate, and we move it up again. Like that. This is the sheave. This will be the sheave or the parasol part where the blade rests in. We will first do the parasol and then the blade at the very end. But don't worry, we will cover the blade as well. Now we want to select the top of it. And now we want to look at it from the side. And we want it to be roughly around here. So, before we go and enter the big umbrella shape, we kind of want to add a few more of these shapes that are slightly bigger, but also slightly smaller as well. So we want to have the handle to pull the parasol down, and we want those little locks that keeps it from sliding off the blade. And since they are basically both requiring the same attitude to work on, we just start with the handle first. Which should be roughly like that. That one should be in gold. And it should be... put this one on 0 again. No, we don't want it like this. We want it to be slightly bigger. So we scale and up a little, just like that. And now we do duplicate that again, but this time we make it much smaller, like that one. On this case and on the other case, we do not need those faces, so we get rid of those. We put them back on the 0 scale. In here we get rid of them as well. Bring it back to the 0 position. Now, this obviously must be way higher, but we can take care of this one first. So, what we want to do here, we go to the side view for that. Could actually be a little bit smaller, like this. So we want this to start somewhere over here. And then we apply the mirror modifier on this one. And we add an array modifier. We set it to 2. And we want it to go along the z-axis instead. Now we have to play around a little to see where would it fit more to be closer to our sample here. Like that. This. And we want to eye that, so I would say it's by 6.5 in this case. We might want a little bit higher. Maybe even 7. Yeah, 7 looks more fine. Yeah, like that. And we have a lot of little details in here. We have that little ring, we have all that little bump and stuff. We will not model that. This is actually textured in with normals, with the color itself. And this one here, this is what we will add, but it will be well, it will just be an edge that we select right here. And we do extrude it out like this. And the rest is being a texture and opacity on it. Now we want to take care of the handle up here. Let me actually put a better view on this. We want to take care of this now. And this is exactly where we go next. Now that we have to find from where to where it goes. So we start roughly from the hip and move upward from there. And if we look at the hand, it might actually be a bit tall, but we will go from here. And one thing that we can already start with is giving the lower part here a ring. And the ring would be here. We want to give it a little bit more of texture, so we add 3 more lines. We take all 3 of them and we scale them along X and Y. Now we take only the middle one and scale it a little bit more even. We did not scale correctly. Now we go here, scale it a little bit more. And this gives it a little bit more of this rough, roundish shape that we have in here. This actually makes it, well, no, it's actually fine. It should be fine. Okay. Now we want to get the next detail in, which is here. So we have to determine where is our next loop cut, and that would be here. And then the next one would be coming from here. Actually, more lower like this. So now we select all of this. And again, we scale it up by a notch, like that. Maybe put it down a little again. Took a little bit too much. Yeah, this is the edge that we want. And if we look at it from this view, I might to course correct a little downwards. And also downwards here. So we take an edge selection of this, push it down a little more like that, so we have a longer angle, and even that part could be, this time I extrude instead, like a little bit more up here. And now we basically do the same as we did here. So we add the loop cut here, here, and in the center. We scale this up more on X and Y. Like that. We take the center here and scale it up once more. And now we need this one to actually come out even more. We need to rise this up. But now we want to also take this and we don't want to leave it like that. So we scale this down again to the point where it intersects again with the model here. Slightly, don't need too much of a space that goes inside or something. Don't want that, don't want to collide too much, but we want it to be close enough to tell the story. So now we have that handle here. Again, shade smooth, make it a little look smoother, and now we could basically move that up and down. And the last piece that we would need on that end would be the little ending on top of here. So we take this, copy that, put it on top here, and now we can select the faces from here, delete those, and we press L on this, so we select the entire mesh that is now singular here, and delete that as well. And here we can do one simple trick again by extruding and now scaling inward to make it a little bit more visible. Because what we will do now is we select each opposing vertices and we collapse them by merging them into the center. So instead we get now that little in the middle line. The nice topology on top of that. To fix it up, and we want to raise that a little. Now that we have that, we want to go back to object mode. And now it is time for our actual umbrella. So we want to take a closer look right here and actually count all of those segments. Those are exactly 20 segments. So we want to, the quickest way is to take a cylinder, make it 20 faces, and then just delete what we don't need. And that is exactly what we do. This is a little quick thing that we add is we go to cursor to selected right here, which is Shift S. And then we select the cursor to selected to put our cursor here. So when we add our cylinder and put it to 20, we then have it directly here at the tip. And now we look from above. That looks actually quite good, so we keep that. So that is 75 centimeters. And what we do now is going here in the edit mode, we loop select with Alt again our little ring here, get rid of it. We keep the lower one for now, just as a reference, and then we box select the top, and I want to scale it down to this point. And then I want to take the outer ring of it and scale it out we extrude and scale it out so it fits our old shape again. Now we can select the lower one because we don't need it anymore. We can push it down. So now we raise this part up, and we have one more vertex here that we also need to raise up. And first we just put it on top of here. That much that it doesn't stick through, like that. And now we can go back on that little detail if needed, and then just raise those points here. And be like, okay, more of this, more of that, and more of that. So it's a little bit less obvious when we look from down below. Now that we have that, we go back in here. Here I want to give it a red material. Same again, we select the red color, roughness of 0, roughness of 1, so that we have that. And now what I want to add is one more edge loop right in here. So we have a little bit more of a curved shape actually, and not a completely straight line. Makes the silhouette read more interestingly, though we will have to edit that in the future again. We have to go a little bit course direct, but for now it has a nice little silhouette. And what we want to add now is another curved circle. And that one will actually be right here. The span of it. And we can actually duplicate that one and have another one for the inner circle. And those will be used to spread those outer blades and the inner blades. So in order to continue here, we want to make those blades. So what we need to do is we add another cube and 10 centimeters this time, way too big. 2 to 5 centimeters maybe. Let's put it up. Yeah, 2 centimeters looks actually good. So we have a blade like that. And we want the blade to spread among the x-axis. Now I also want to go to the ground with it, so that we actually start here. So one thing I want to edit is that the cube itself should be on the line like this, so that we start at one end and then pulling it out. Next would be that we go into top view and pull it out enough so that it actually sticks out here, as it also sticks out here. Then there are a few things we need to consider. This one is slightly bigger than this, so it has this little obelisk shape. And then we also need to consider that it will flow along this line. However, I would start with here before we go further down the line of the shape and already apply our curve modifier and put our curve from here down. The reasoning behind that is simply because we need to figure out a lot of things. One thing, of course, is we need to apply the hide. We need to rotate it, but not along the z-axis, but then along the y-axis. We need to also look at what axis is the best for us to take. We best take Z as our corresponding axis. But I also realize in here that we need to do one little thing completely different, and that is turning it by 180 degrees. Simply because we need it to face the right direction. Oh, maybe not. Maybe actually... This is why I actually want to work with it first before we have our shape completely aligned. So we know that this is the end piece. And this is the lower end. So what we wanted, actually the reverse. So minus y seems to be exactly what we need. Okay. So while we're in here, while we have to fiddle around a little bit with our controls here to make it actually work the way we want. And course correct a little. We also need to work on the scale side of everything. So this one needs to scale down. And this one needs to scale up, actually. But not in that direction, in this direction. So I want to have it a little bit have this trapezius way. Now we need to rotate this that it actually fits our needs. And here it might actually be a good idea to put it down here and then move it. A little bit finicky, so you have to look from here. This looks so far good. Now we need to go into edit mode. We see that this part is a little bit much. And we also see that we need, as stated before, raise this a little, including we need to raise it from here too. Definitely want to have this one inside of this. Now we need to have... Oh, actually that's perfect. Okay. Now we can use again the array modifier. That doesn't look correct, so it's probably the z-axis that we have to follow. This is an unexpected behavior. So we have to fiddle around with it, and we actually have, which is the unexpected behavior, to take very small values. So 0.3 is quite close. 0.31 is too big. 0.35 looks right. How does it look from the top? Ah, it's getting closer. How about 2.5? 2.5 is in the wrong direction. 7.5. 7.5 is too much. 6.5. Just 6. Just 6 seems to be the right spot. Now we have all of those little... I think personally that it could be even a little bit more on this end. So now this right here is not displayed. So we have to course correct that and actually work on one of those plates. One is it? Can we actually see it from here? Is it better? It's better to work with the ghosty one from here. So again, we pull up this point of view. We put this two that we can actually see here, and then we work here. So we want to add another edge loop. Interesting behavior that I didn't take to concern. And let's use edge slide here in order to bring it to the position we need. This. Then we select this to scale it down again. And this time we deactivate the view, so this way we can have a better look at things. I definitely want to move that one around, but we add slide. We don't move like this. Add slide. It should be around here. Now, one there, one there. Or differently, what we also can do. Probably some more interesting and faster one. Interesting. Okay, we have to take this side. And we scale it up. But we also go here, select transform orientations and change it from global to normal. So it flows along the normal side. And now we scale it down like this to have that shape from earlier that we want. And so now we take the entire part here, move it around till it fits where we want it even to be. And that one looks almost perfect to what we need. The only thing that concerns me, pretty much how that end looks. We might actually be better off with global. But also I want to select this and make it lower like that. This looks about right. This looks almost like how we need it. Now I also noticed that our angle could be more like that. Yeah, that looks fine. Now we bring back our wheel here and now it doesn't fit anymore. This is an interesting case. We have to take now even lower numbers. One is too much, so 0.9. It's a little. Close to 0.09 though. So almost. Okay, our magic number here is 0.09935. And now we have this beautiful fan in here. And what we can do now is paint it black. So now we do need our little lines right here. So we use the cube again. Size should be almost the same. We go into edit mode and we pull one line of it out. Probably just around like this. Now we need to add the modifier again, the curve modifier. Therefore we go to deform curve. And now we select the inner one that we add. So let's actually go into edit mode here again and move it to the point that it aligns with the pivot. So we have this as our pivot again. And now we can look how things behave. Why is there not the one they need this time? So we kinda need to direct this. So we go back to global. And where we want to have this line is basically on top of this. So what we need to do, positioning then. And now we need to play around with the entire form. Because we definitely don't need it to be here. But where we need it is actually down here. And now we need to adjust it a little, as we definitely want it to be uniform. So the scale is more like this. Then we want to rotate it. So it connects more like this. And we also want to do the same right here. So we rotate it. To a point like this. And just move it so it connects. And now we go to our array modifier. And now we can go for 20 again. And see what values we need to produce for it to line up. It seems like we have a quite low value again. Not too low. But definitely something around 6.8. 6.8 to 5. Nope. 1 to 5. 1 to 5 seems to be the magic number here. And we have all those lines now connecting in here. The only thing that we need to do now, in order to make it a little bit more readable, is adding our black color to it. And that's it. This is already almost the entirety of this. Now we have to do the top piece of our umbrella here. And this has some sort of leaf pattern, I would call it. So in order to make that, we actually add a plane. This plane is way too big. We need to scale it down right here. And we actually can work in here. We zoom in with a point separate, or with a separator key on the one embed. And what we want here is we want to work with the mirror modifier again. So this time we are on Y. We do clipping again. And I would move this one. Let's move this one up here. And give put and roughly in here. And let's also take everything and pull it a little bit up. This can be pulled down. And now we want to add edge loops. One here. One there. This one is a little bit too far away. What we basically want to do is creating a little bit of a leaf shape. As you can see, this one is a little bit far. This one looks better. We can actually use the x-axis here as well. Now we can duplicate that, turn it around by 90 degrees. And this is where I would say we need to pull it out a little bit more. Now we duplicate it, rotate it by 90 degrees, and this is looking way, way better. So now we can take this and apply. Both of our shapes here have it. Now we do Control J for join. And now we have only one object here. So what we will do is selecting the edges here, we meet at the center. We select the edges here, meet at the center. We do that for all of them. Okay, now we select every edge here and every edge on this side and rebridge. And now we have to add more edge loops on each side. And like before earlier, we select the inner one, then the outer one, merge at last, and we continue that for everything here. Also down here. Before we get into cleaning it up, we actually select the middle vertices down here, and then we go into the top of here where we have proportional editing. We want to turn this on, then move this middle vertice up, but we see, okay, too much is happening. So while we have that handle here, we hold the F key and scroll down, and right now you can see not much is happening because our proportional size is so fucking big. We cannot even see it. But now, where we get closer and we now can see what we actually do, we can scale it like this. Then take the entirety and put it down. Activate it again. Like this. Now we can also go from here, take this little piece, and move it down as much as we need to. That. And like that. And clean up a little bit more later on. Now we have those. Now we actually also have here a little bit of problem. So we pull that down here, but we definitely want to take less of them. And we do the same for the other side. This side. This side. And also over here. Only here now. And with that we have that little pal. We give that our black value. And now the only thing that is left is this little triangular piece. Do I have a good picture of that? That actually looks like a little bit of a coned pyramid shape. So a little edit from the future. We actually want to clean this up, which we forgot earlier. So we will do that by selecting that vertex and merging it over here. Go with the same and do it over here. Go basically one way around, but also we want to have this one over there. And that way we have less vertices that we do not need to preserve that entirety of shape that we have here. Even here, we can go and merge the lines with here, but then this one with here. Just need basically this stuff of information. This one is still needs to be connected here. And now we have a way better preserved shape. And can work with that instead. So for this right here, we want to add another cylinder right on top of this. And we go for here. And it can actually be that tall. It can actually be in here. The one point thing is that we go in here and create our shape. I would actually go from top to bottom. So the first thing we do before adding loop cuts is that we pull this one up and select the entirety of our points here. If we're looking for items from the side, and we can actually scale it down a little. That way we make one selection here, one here, and one here, and the inner one right here we extrude, we scale inwards, we get this shape, and then we take this entirety and scale it up. And now we can push it in here, this, and that actually might be a little bit much, which also means that our points right here might actually be a bit tall. So we look from the side again, push it downwards. We maybe scale it down a little bit more. this one down more. And yeah, this is pretty much the shape that we want it to have to be a little bit of a piercing point or a tip of it. We make it gold. And now we have that part done. Now we get to the more little details, like the lines down here that would connect to our point in here. So we want to take this face right here. We want to pretty much push it up to this end. We want to pull the same from here. Put it this way. Then we put the next one here. And do I have to look too? This one has to be on that end then. We need to smallen it down a little bit more even, and bring it up here. Before we do that, to make sure it keeps the scale, so now it should be better. A little discrepancy here. It should be like this. So this is a solid line, not a curved line here. At least roughly. Probably won't be able to make it perfectly now, but we want to take care of that. So now what we need to do is give it a bunch of loop cuts. And here I will take the shortcut Control R and use my wheel to give it 4 more loop cuts, and I put that on every single one here, 4 here, 4 more here, and also 4 more here. And now we do return to our proportional editing and make use of our curving when we proportional edit right here. So we take this piece, move it up, and we take this piece and move it down again. This way we get this curved line. And if we want to correct it a little bit more, we can always go from this rotation too. Let me start over again, but with a slider. We do this with every single one here. So push this one up more, this one lower. Here we have to a little bit watch out that we take both of these, not from the other, like we almost accidentally did here. So we push both of these up, both of these down. And last but not least, push this one up and this one down. And now we perfectly have our handle thingy right here. Now our next detail actually involves this point right here. So what we need is to select this, but when this part right here, we actually need to separate into its own mesh. And we also do not have it being black, we have it to be being golden. And now we go here into edit mode. And we pretty much create another piece, which will be this little bell-shaped surrounding. So in order to have that, we definitely need at least this much that we need for the main part, where we take this, and without proportional editing, we want to scale it again along this axis. However, we could make it a little bit more extreme. Therefore, we add 2 loop cuts right here and smooth it a little bit out. We want to select this edge loop, this edge loop. And make it more like this. Maybe can it go even further out? Yeah, like that. Now we have this part that we pull down one time and then pull down another time, and then we scale it down. We also have to move it inwards to get actually off the right feeling for it. And we do it another time. But this time we do merge those lines again. We go and we merge to the center. And now, of course, those 4 vertices right here, they're a little bit out too much. To get more of that bell shape, we can do it like this. And actually course correct this one slightly. If we can do the same one here. And now this one looks already better. For the next part, we want to actually go all the way here to the bottom and make selection together. Oh, was it selected? That one. Here, we want to add a Hotoris. Not a Hotoris like that. Way too big. Way too big. We want to maybe have 12. Now that looks okay. The one thing that we need to adjust is the radius. And we want to rotate it for 90 degrees. And for here, we want to scale it down. We need to correct a few things. Wrong one, x-axis. We want it to be a ring, but we need now to scale. First off, we need to scale like this. Second off, we also need to scale like this. And now, we kind of want to pull it down at first. And we get rid of those, and we get rid of that one. Now, we can give it also the gold color and put that one in here to make it a little bit more pleasing for the eye though. We want to scale that one down. We want to scale we have to do it separately. This one down, and this one down. A few touches here as well. Just like that. And like that. This way we have now our ring that pretty much holds on to our trinkets. Now for the other, we add a curve. A circular curve. This time it gets rotated by 90 degrees in this direction. And the radius needs to be much, much smaller. 0.5. Maybe just one. Just one. Just one sounds good. Now we have to do the same again. We have to scale this a little. So that this one rests on here. Be a little bit more even. Scale it. Scale it a little bit in here. We have now our line here. And we go into our data tab. And where it says geometry extrude is what we would create it like this. We don't want that. Instead, what we want is giving it a little bit of thickness. Is too much. This is about right, but we do not need that much high resolution. Maybe even a little bit more smaller. Not like that, that's too small. More like that, yeah. And this is, let's actually make it black. We have a better understanding of it. Yeah, could be right. I think it could be maybe even a little lower in resolution. 2 is way too strong. Need it a little bit smoother here. It's 3. 3 seems okay. So we have now this one. What we now need is to select that. We basically create our little trinket from here. So we add another cylinder. That actually almost has the correct shape. It's a little bit too big, so yeah, more like this. And a little longer. Not that long though. 2.5? 2.5, yeah. So we put it in here and we go into the edit mode of this and we select this one. We pull that one off and we pull this one. That is all that we need. And we make it black. Yeah, okay, that's exactly what we need, okay. The only thing that I actually want to change is instead of going for 12, we redo this and go for 8 instead, because we do not need that high of a resolution in order to bring that shape across. And that way I also can show a different thing how we can achieve what we just did by selecting the top and the bottom and then just scaling them outward. Now both of them having the same distance from each other, and it's basically perfectly shaped like this. And so now we do have this part till here covered. Now we need to make a line from here to here. And one part that we could do is taking a Bezier curve and going from there to there, but it is a little bit, I don't like to work with that for that kind of stuff. What I instead want to do is take a NURBS curve instead. And those are also quite big, so let's just bring them closer to what we need. And we added them, and I want to get rid of those two. And I want to push this one to our center. Take everything actually and push it down. God damn it. We put this one cursor to selected. We will put this one as a cursor down. Now we draw a straight line downwards. I know here in the image it is already curved, but that is because it is already influenced by physics at that point. So we just need to put it down here. Now we select everything, and we, in order to give it a little bit more detail to move with, we put this one down a little bit more. Now we subdivide it a few times. Think about that, should be right. Then we go and give it a little bit more depth again. Should be roughly around the same resolution of that, so we go with 3 again. Looks almost about right. 2 is probably too little. Yeah, 2 is definitely too little. Or seems to be a line around the corner that we need. Back here again, we have actually taken a number a little lower than this. So it should be more like this, and we want to take the entirety of this and put a little bit more up. Only to the point that it aligns with that, so that we then can go into edit mode and put it, object mode, and put it more directly right here. Then again, we make it black. And now we do have a quite interesting shape going on right here. So we do go with another cylinder at this point. We want directly the end of it here where we start. So cursor to selected. Then we add a cylinder, and the shape roughly is okay. We want to pull this down. We have it aligned with our point here. And instead of pushing the one vertex up, we push those down. And now we can have a look right here. So I want one loop selection here, another one right down there, and a bigger one here and here. So with that edge loop, we extrude and scale inwards again a little. With this edge loop here, we go outside. Then we do have another edge loop right here. And another one right here. And we take this one and extrude it out. This one, push it a little bit more inward. So we have this kind of a shape. Actually, we need a little bit more of this. This looks upright. A little bit more. More like this. Now we go in here. Pull that one down. We take our vertice from inwards here and pull it out like this as well. And this is the first piece. This one will be red. You can actually pull this one a little bit more like inward like that. Now we put a cursor to select it again. We add another cylinder. And this time we pull it down again. Like that. Now it gets a little bit more interesting because we have a couple of things to look at. And this is not the best view for it. Actually, it is. We have a couple of these white ones that are sticked into each other. So the most obvious parts first. We do have consideration of loops coming in here that extrude outwards here. And then we have here also it getting a little bit thicker, just a little bit, not much. And then we do have this again, outwards a lot. We need it to be quite long on this end. And we also want this one to go down, so we have a shape like this. And also we have to put this one down like this. We have a little bit like this ghost figure. And this, actually want to pull it in, but not that much, so kind of like this. And to give it a little bit more of shape, we just scale it in outwards, so we do have it like this. And we want to have this one a little bit more like in here, so that we can then take this and scale it in like that. So now we have this little puppet. Kind of looking like a puppet. So the scale does not quite fit in here. Take everything, make it a much bigger. And that looks way more correct. Just with the exception that we need to smallen this in this direction, as it is only like a little ring. Just like that. Straight, straight. Line actually cut now. A little bit more up. And in here, make another material. Make it. You make it white, but a little bit more of a grayish white. And we want to take this, actually, duplicate it, and pull it inwards. Pull it down, just like this. We actually do have 3 of them. Like that. The problem in here is, of course, that we need to get rid of a little bit of information to make it performant. So we can cut off everything from here. And we can do the same here, on that end. So when we put this one back in, it still looks correct, but it will not occlude. Let's put this one a little bit more in, and so that we can actually see it. You see the line that it is creating there when we look from below, but we do not need to see much more of this. So this is this stuff. Now we basically need to take care of our little line here and our radish shape here. So we take a stickle, we push it down, and we want to add it in to the point that it is right here at our center. So, or at least close enough. A little bit more. Okay. Now we want to turn this into a curve. So we have all those points now. Now we want to go in here. And we want to extrude We want to extrude, but not that much. So 0.25 probably. A little bit too small. Maybe 3.5. Maybe 5 at all. Yeah, let's go with 5. At least for now. So now we need to rotate it by 90 degrees. And the rest will be determined by where we are. So a little bit like that, not quite right, but good enough. Now we need to put proportional editing a little. We take those, tilt them a little. We take actually everything and tilt it. Tilt this a little bit more. We're correcting those. And now we take everything from here. And we could make it a little bit smaller, more like this. Yeah. That one looks about right. I don't think we... Okay, now we keep it. So we scale it a little bit down proportionally, which will help us define where what goes. And we need to have that line being more like this, which means we need to take those and tilt them more here as well. We may actually take those without proportional editing. Just pull them down. And now with proportional editing, grab them more. First more like this. And more like this and here. Need to correct the tilt a little. Not too much, it's just that the overall shape looks a little bit better to read. Okay, now we do have that. This one could maybe... Yeah, that reads better. Okay, now we can mirror. But we need a mirror object. So we take this part, we say this is it, and now we do have our mirror part here. Now we can actually position it a little bit more and give it a little bit more flow. Again, with proportional editing enabled, and the grab. And now with the disabled, with it being like this. Fix the tilting a little. Here. Now we have ourselves this little ribbon shape. Now we can take all this and smooth it actually a little bit out. A lot of tilting to fix here. It does look better, but it could be a little bit more over here. That looks better. Okay, now a little bit more of a gap here. Nah, we leave it like that. Okay, now we do have our little ribbon wings. We need to build a connector part right here, and that will be a little cube. Really, a little cube. Not that little though. More like that little. We give it a little bit of that. And what we basically want to do, and this is the easiest way to get it really quick, is we go and take a subdivision surface. And we only want both one. Directly apply it. And now we scale things out. We move it into position. So the lines in here. That's already pretty much that part. Now we have a little bit more of floaties. So what we can flatten that a little bit more to get the shape done and put more in here. That's it, okay. So now we have that. Now we do want to make it quite easy. We create a plane, merge everything to the center, so we have only one vertex. And then we go into object mode and bring it down. Now, from here, we extrude. Interesting that it doesn't show us. Oh, it did not extrude. My bad. Okay, we extrude downwards. This one will be longer than our, let's call them ghost puppets. They're around this, and we subdivide what we have here a few times. And this will be a curve, but before we make it, we actually pull out it just like this, so it's a little bit more interesting in the default position. Here we also grab and move it a little. And we deactivate it, push this one a little bit back. We have a little bit more of an interesting reading curve as our default. Now we take everything of this and we convert it to a curve. And again, 0.05, we will need that here as well. Not as an offset, we need it here. As this, and because of that, we need to take the entirety and tilt it forward. We take proportional editing here once again to, how big is it? Way too big. Go back to here, we actually need to subdivide it beforehand, then scale down only on that end. Might be actually too much of details. Let's get rid of everything. That should be enough. Now we take that and duplicate it. This one is more in front of the bubble. This one will be behind it. Bubble, I say, by bubble I mean the knot. Pretty much. So in here, this one is actually quite shorter. More like that. Actually, let's also take this one and pull it a little bit to the side. So it's a little bit more readable. With proportional editing, we give it a little bit more of a nicer silhouette to read. And with that, we can pull both of those, make them black. Now we have those. And the last piece is roughly on this height, and it will be again a cylinder. And a cylinder that is roughly on that edge, that has a pointy head. That goes down a lot to here. That's what we have here, being extruded inwards again. Have the line that is in here being extruded like this. Let's put it like this. Then we pull one line down here and we extrude that one. And this part gets pulled inside again. That entirety will be red once again. It also will be smaller. And a little bit more stretched. Pull it up like that. We give it a little bit of a tilt. And yes, it will float like that. It actually does float in like that in the game as well. Maybe more like this. And actually not that strong of a get more aligned. Okay, and now we need to take those lines here again. We make them also red, but we go in here, we have no extrude, but we have a depth. Not like that though. But much smaller. That one does almost look about right. Position it in here. It's almost perfect. I just need to rotate it by 180 degrees. Not 80, not 18. Okay. So that one is slightly longer than our end piece here, so that kind of fits the bill. So I would push those down a little. Then we take a copy of that. Put it down here as well. Here we go into edit mode. And we downscale it a lot. Actually, might be better to work with the depth here and make it much smaller. And now we do a lot of correction of the line. This one will be close on the shame almost the entirety of time. And then here where it actually splits here and there's a bit more of a curved shape like this. Maybe a little bit more in. Yeah, that looks okay. And with that, we have all the trinkets and everything done from the modeling part. The only thing that is missing right now is the blade. And in order to achieve that, what I would like to do here is cursor to select it. We add an empty, and we pretty much take this, our curves from here, this, and this, and then we select the empty last, and then we press Ctrl P for parenting. And now what we can do with the parenting is we can add it like this. Okay, we did not have selected this, so let's add that one to the object as well. So now if we take that, we can add that to the list like that. Though there are other elements that we haven't selected. This one, and I assume this one. And we add that as well. And now we basically can pull the entirety of the umbrella up and use that always to just pull it aside. So with that being said, we want to add another cube. And this cube will be taller. So here we are already too tall. But this seems roughly about the right one. Now we go into edit mode. And we go in here, so we have a little bit of an X-ray view. And we can then, as our first action, pull it out. And then in. And now I want to take this and put it all the way up till here, I would say. Okay, now comes the part where we take the empty and move it away. And now we use edit mode to bring everything in shape. First off is we need to decide on one end that is the cutting edge. And when I look here how everything flows, the cutting edge that we see here is opposite of where our trinkets direct to. So kinda like this, but we also want to have a line here, centering, and we want to do the same down here, centering, and of course the blade is not like that. That would be boring. So in order to actually give it a little bit more features, we removed that. If we have it like that already, we would not be able to pull our line in here, so we want to actually that one here a little bit thicker, and we could achieve the same look by selecting this and making this just a little bit thinner, but we still would have the editability of the blade shape. So could have like that to be a typical blade, but we do have a katana blade, so we have a little bit of that middle line. Especially when we look at here, we have it actually be quite pointy and steep. So that means we would have it more like that. We have the thickening on that end. Now we need to actually get another view of a katana. The problem is that we need to improvise a little. As the game makes the blade not curved, but more straight. So we do have to compensate for that. But we can make a few decisions based on how the blade should look. And on that end, we pull this one down a lot. Pull this one down a little. And we wanted to have a little bit of a curved shape. So, more like this. More like that, and yes, it doesn't quite look like a katana. as we need to soften it up a little by moving it into this direction. Now we can at least give it a little bit of a curving by adding more lines. Let's take actually this one and rotate it out to be in the angle. And put it more on the top. That way, when we move it here a little, I'll actually take 5. So then I can take this one. We take global editing again. Just have it curve a little. I think what we need the most is having it come together to a small one here, and I also think we are too broad in here. Now look at the pictures. The blade goes actually from here to here. And then actually is on the end like this. So now all we need to do is put this one back in here. Could actually be a little bit longer even. Just like that. And in here to have it being silver. Wish. Take this material, make it a copy, and make it a little bit brighter. Actually, no, let's make it a little bit darker. And let's give it a little bit less roughness. And then we put it in here, and we do have our umbrella katana sorted. It's in here. So with this done, we have the modeling part completed, and we now would need to texture it. This will be a tutorial on its own. So check out Neverness to Everness. It's a really fun gacha game. The link to it is in the description and in the comments. And we see each other on the next tutorial or in my streams. Until then, bye.